Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology.
Okay, let's keep this in mind. This is very, very strange to me. So 3 minutes in, Biden says, hey, this isn't all Republicans, not even the majority of Republicans. And then literally every single Republican jumped up and said, no, actually, I am a MAGA extremist and I do hate the Constitution. And now you have offended me by saying that I'm like that, Biden. Is it the Republicans who all have dementia? Did they all forget when Biden said, not all Republicans are like this, you know?
And the speech was designed to attack all of his political opponents and treat them as enemies of the state. That's what this speech was designed to do.
No, he never said all of his political opponents. He literally called for his political opponents to unify with him and other Democrats to stand against the MAGA Republicans. This is the thing, is that Ben Shapiro is a partisan degenerate hack. He is not interested in giving the truth. I feel like Shapiro used to be better than this. I remember when Ben Shapiro would kind of give balanced takes, and he wasn't afraid to criticize Republicans and Democrats, and it seemed as though he wasn't this partisan hack. He has moved on from that. Apparently all the money is in the hackery, and this is exactly where he is going. If anybody has watched the speech and now is watching Shapiro's breakdown of it, they would know he is lying. But again, Shapiro is a partisan hack, and he's also relying on the fact that his audience is largely uneducated. They didn't watch the whole speech. They don't know. They saw the spooky picture, they hear Shapiro's mad about it, and they get their hate boner going too. I was away on vacation when I suddenly heard that Joe Biden has become Dark Brandon. That's right. He used to be like Milquetoast Brandon. Now he's just full-blown Dark Brandon. Now, I have not seen the speech yet. I don't know really what to expect, but it's only 24 minutes. So I figured we would sit back together and watch it together. Keep in mind as well that conservatives are very, very angry about this, okay? They have said that Joe Biden is so... trying to wipe away a tear, okay? So divisive. That's right, guys. The supporters of the most divisive president in U.S. history, Donald Trump, are angry because Joe Biden was apparently divisive in his speech. Now, keep in mind that Donald Trump has called Democrats wacky and claimed that they are ungovernable. Ungovernable is what Trump has said about the Democrats. But that wasn't divisive or anything, okay? The conservatives were fine with that. But the minute that Joe Biden gets up here and makes a speech that offends them and you know, triggers them, hurts their little fifis, suddenly that means Biden is the most divisive president. Oh, ooh, ooh. But again, I don't really know what to expect, so let's do this.
My fellow Americans.
Oh boy, we're off to a rough start.
My fellow Americans. It's not COVID, it's just the lung disease.
Please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America. Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations. That in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words, we the people, we the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They're how we became...
Well, that's true, and that's also pretty based, but again, I can right off the bat understand why conservatives would be mad about this, especially conservative Christians, since they really don't give a single f*** about the Constitution. You know, they talk a big game about free speech when they get kicked off Twitter for saying the N-word too many times, but yet they have no problem whatsoever with arguing that marriage should be a religious institution, even though that would be a violation of gay people's freedoms and their rights as well. Not to mention, they also supported Trump, who was in favor of locking people up for burning the American flag, which would also be a direct violation of the First Amendment. Free speech would have been violated had Trump actually done that, and his supporters loved it. They cheered that on. When Christian conservatives argue that marriage should not be a secular institution, but should instead be a religious one. They are arguing that Congress or that the state should uphold one religion over another, which is a violation of the First Amendment. So far so good for Brandon here. I can understand why conservatives would be mad right off the bat, though. They hate the Constitution.
The greatest nation on earth. They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we, the people, are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We, the people, have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns.
Well, 2 minutes in, and so far, he's pretty well spoken thus far. I don't know. What are the conservatives going to say about this one? Maybe he's on, like, his dementia pills? I don't know.
Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just, that is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first...
Hey, shout out to the guy we just talked to. The soul. Hey, if Biden believes it, it's got to be real, right?
We must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Based? So let's go through this, right? We had the MAGA Republicans that did the January 6th thing. They literally were trying to overthrow a democratic election because they were triggered about the results. So we have that. We have Donald J. Trump advocating to lock people up for 5 years if they burn the American flag, which is a violation of their constitutional rights. He also said that people should be deported if they burn the American flag, which is a violation of their First Amendment rights. So I don't like Biden's use of the term not normal here. Whenever you say this isn't normal and that's somehow an argument, it's a very weak argument. But he's absolutely correct when he says the extremist MAGA Republican types are threatening the foundation of our country. Absolutely.
Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology.
Okay. Let's keep this in mind. This is very, very strange to me. So 3 minutes in, Biden says, hey, this isn't all Republicans, not even the majority of Republicans. And then literally every single goddamn fucking Republican jumped up and said, no, actually, I am a MAGA extremist and I do hate the Constitution. And now you have offended me by saying that I'm like that, Biden.
I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
True.
These are hard things. But I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution.
True.
They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election.
It was so divisive. I don't care if it was divisive or not. He is literally spitting straight facts here, okay? Cope, cry, seethe, dilate. This is absolutely correct. They do not respect the Constitution or the rule of law. This was demonstrated with January 6th. This was demonstrated with their gigantic support for Trump wanting to trample over people's constitutional rights. This is even demonstrated now by Christian conservatives consistently advocating to change marriage into a religious institution, which is also a violation of the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment. It's true. MAGA Republican extremist types fucking hate the Constitution. They despise it.
The rule of law. They did not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies.
True.
Empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA force.
Like, literally, this is only divisive if you're a MAGA extremist, okay? And in that case, then we have more reasons to be divided from you, my friend. And it's not Biden's speech, okay? Your brain has been divided from your head, so it would appear.
Forces are determined to take this country backwards. Backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love.
True.
They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence.
True.
That are a threat to our personal rights.
Yup. Remember how Clarence Thomas said that we should take a look at the legislation, or excuse me, the Supreme Court ruling in regards to gay marriage? Pepperidge Farm remembers that one, okay? Those would be extremist Republicans in my mind.
Of political violence.
Oh yeah, political violence? You remember when Donald Trump tried to get the literal fucking military to turn on U.S. citizens during the BLM riots? Yeah, I remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
That are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections.
True.
They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy.
Literally, he's not lumping all Republicans as being these extremist types at all. He's quoting conservatives who he respects. My God, I'm not surprised at all that conservatives are mad about this because, again, in order to be a conservative, you already have to turn off your fucking brain. And then on top of this now, did they, like, not listen to the beginning part where he was like, hey, this isn't all Republicans, okay? Not even the vast majority of them are these MAGA extremist types. Did they just, like, forget that part? Is it the Republicans who all have dementia? Did they all forget when Biden said, not all Republicans are like this, you know, but some of them are really extreme and that's a problem? Did they forget that and just decide that that was a personal attack because, well, maybe they're actually extremists who hate the Constitution? I don't know.
But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can.
LRR, just like the riots that took place during Trump's inauguration, rioting is bad and should be condemned no matter why it's taking place. Also, though, that is whataboutism, so cope, seethe, dilate, fuck you.
We are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks, it's within our power. It's in our hands.
Hold on, let me go back.
And folks, extreme MAGA ideology from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it.
True.
And folks, it's within our power. It's in our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies.
True. Think about how many MAGA Republicans are so brain dead they still think the election was stolen. Think about how many MAGA Republicans are so brain dead they think the vaccines aren't safe and effective. This is absolutely correct. God, Biden is just straight spitting here, man. Biden is on fire. No wonder Republicans are so triggered about this. They want to go back to when the Democrats were just like, well, if we just play nice, you know, then maybe one day the Republicans will come around. Ooh, woo. No. Finally, Biden's showing some fucking spine here. Dark Brandon is rising.
Together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it.
USA!
This is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence.
True.
We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency.
Hey, Coper from chat earlier, when you tried to bring up the whataboutism thing about the rioting when Trump was inaugurated, here's Joe Biden saying that we do not condone violence in any form. Okay? There you go. I get it. Maybe you're out like looking for your father now, but if you're still here, you should listen to that, okay? Maybe put it on slow mode and listen to it on repeat to help your dementia brain.
This is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence. We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still, at our core, a democracy. And yet,
Based?
history tells us the blind loyalty.
Well, actually, we're a democratic republic. We're not entirely a raw and legitimate democracy.
To a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight, I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology. We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy.
Based.
We, the people.
And it's funny, too, because a lot of them, a lot of these MAGA Republican types, think that they are, in fact, the patriots. But it is truly the more patriotic thing to do by rejecting the extremism and instead standing by true American values, defending the Constitution, defending the Declaration of Independence. These founding principles are what ultimately matter. And when you support that, when you put aside your own biases, or maybe you put aside the fact that you really like Trump or you like this other Republican guy, put it aside and stand by true American values, that is what being a real and true patriot looks like.
People will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
Hey, Coper, where's the Coper from chat? I hope you heard that one too. There is no place for political violence in our country. Amen. Based Biden. That is a swift condemnation not only of the MAGA Republicans, but of the BLM riots, of the riots that took place when Trump was inaugurated. All of that was political violence that is now being condemned by the current president of the United States. So I don't know where that Coper guy went, but hopefully he's listening to this, and maybe he's crying himself to sleep when he realizes how fucking wrong he was.
We saw law enforcement brutally attacked on January 6th. We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI agents, just doing their job as directed, facing threats
True.
to their own lives from their own fellow citizens.
True.
On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before, predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law. And we, the people, must say, this is not who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong. We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster now. We can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country, but democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the...
Man, Biden is fucking spitting facts. Mad props to the ghostwriter for this speech, because goddamn, that's a good line right there. And it's also so incredibly painfully accurate. Anytime the Republicans lose, they always just start bitching about fraud or claiming that actually the illegals voted against them. Because they just can't accept the fact that sometimes they lose because they're unlikable degenerates. Sorry. We saw this happen when Donald Trump lost the election to Joe Biden. I mean, look at how long these election fraud claims went on. Look at how many different studies had to be done to demonstrate that there was no election fraud, or even if there was, there wasn't enough that would ever sway a fucking election. Look at how long that's been going on, and still, you still to this day have Republicans like Gothics and other brain-dead losers who unironically still think the election was stolen, which is just reaffirming what Biden has said. They think that they have either won or they were cheated. They cannot imagine a scenario in which they are the losers. And it's sad.
MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental.
True. Based.
American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not the will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost.
USA,
I will not
lock
stand
them
by and
up.
watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look.
True.
As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like your hearings in that bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again, and we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America, an America with an unlimited future, an America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around. I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go. I believe we could build a better America. So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads. I believe we could make America safer, so we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton. I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act. And I believe we could.
Hey, Biden, why don't you now institute a public option and then legalize weed, and you'll be like voted dictator, my dude.
We could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever, ever, ever. The cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together. It's never easy, but we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come.
True. That's absolutely true, and that goes along with what I've always been saying also, right? Conservatives, what do they want to conserve? Whatever social norms they happen to be born into. That's it. Conservatives don't care about like interracial marriage or segregation anymore because they were born into a world where that kind of progress had already taken place. So now they're obsessed with conserving traditional marriage and anything else. They're basically just, you know, obsessed with conserving the current social norms they were born into and opposing progress at all costs. This is absolutely true. It's sad, but yet Biden is doing an excellent job pointing this out. This is a really good speech. It's powerful, it's accurate, and also Biden doesn't sound like he's mumbling and slurring his words, which is always a win. Honestly, this is starting to make me proud to be an American again. I might have to go pull my American flag out of my fireplace and start wearing that again.
Look, I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open. Millions of Americans have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and their compensation.
Yeah, keep in mind that original bill that was going to help veterans who'd been exposed to toxic burn pits was originally shut down because Republicans voted against it. Yeah, the really big pro-law and order, love our veterans type people actually struck down that initial bill because, well, I don't know. They want to see us all suffer?
American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America. No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say. I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is now visible. Light that will guide us forward. Not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. We're going to create millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century because the world needs us to. That's where we need to focus our energy. Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of grievance, but on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America, not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed. And that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. True. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us us. The soul of America is defined.
The American soul. Hey, all you religious folk out there, grab your Bibles. All right? Yay!
By the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect, that all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence, and that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible. Folks,
Lock him up! USA! Lock her up! Lock her...
Oh, sorry, it's not over?
democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look, our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there. They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense.
That's pretty based.
Good manners.
Hey, take notes, MAGA Republicans. Rights apply to people who you don't like also. Good point, Biden.
Nothing they've ever suffered from. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity.
Yeah.
It gives...
Yeah. My veins aren't running red. My veins are running red, white, and blue.
USA! You...
Take no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve. That's who we are. That's what we stand for. That's what we believe. And that's precisely what we're doing. Opening doors, creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning.
Based Biden.
Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble and whole. And this work is the work of democracy, the work of this generation. It is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need everyone to do their part. So speak up, speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote. And if we do our duty,
Oh, wait, let's wait for the doomer, dumb hippies to peep out of the corner going,
Voting doesn't even work, bro. I'd rather just lay on my back and complain about everything.
in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst, we heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved that for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, that this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America. And may God protect our nation, and may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you.
Honestly, that was probably Biden's best speech, hands down. That was an excellent speech. Very few stumbling on his words, concise, clear. He made sure to point out the very distinguished differences between your standard, everyday Republican neighbor versus the MAGA Republican types. Holy shit. This was an excellent speech, but yet conservatives are crying. Conservatives are so mad about this. I'm sorry. If you watch this speech and you're mad about it, then, pardon my language, but you are sussy. You are a sussy baka. If you watched this and felt personally offended, odds are you're a MAGA Republican. Okay, did you watch this and get offended? Yeah, hi, I'm just taking notes. Where were you on January 6th? Just a little question, you know, no big deal. I didn't even know what to expect because I hadn't seen it prior. But I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be very bad because conservatives were really mad about it. And lo and behold, I was right. This is why I continuously say that I should start betting on this stuff. We had a separation of Republicans and the extremist type Republicans. We had support for democracy and for protesters. Remember what Donald Trump said about protesters? That they should be taken out on a fucking stretcher. Now what is Biden saying? He's saying that even if those people across here are acting ludicrous, they have a right to do so, because that is what democracy and America is all about. This wasn't a divisive speech. This was a call to unity against the dividers. So I thought that we would go and mine some cope, you know, mine some salt here. Ben Shapiro, well, he had a take. President Biden condemns his political opponents as threats to the soul of this nation. I think this is just going to have to be the running joke. Shapiro, do you have dementia? Did you watch the same speech? Where did he say anything about his political opponents being a threat to the soul of the nation? Nowhere did he say this. He said the MAGA Republicans are a threat. All of us, Republicans, should also recognize that the MAGA Republicans are dangerous and a threat. All right, well, let's go ahead and listen to Ben Shapiro cope.
I, honest to God, never thought I would see something like this from Joe Biden, from really any American president. Last night, the president of the United States.
From any American president. Again, I'm sorry to cut you off in 8 seconds, but you were a Trump supporter, dude. Donald Trump was one of the most divisive president that America has ever seen. He demonized the Democrats consistently. All of them. He demonized all of his political opponents as threats. Only 8 seconds in. Yeah, everybody get your pearls, okay? We're about to start clutching them hard.
Gave the most demagogic, dangerous speech I've ever heard from an American president, truly. And a lot of people out there right now on the left side of the aisle screaming about Donald Trump and his January 6th speech. I really hated Donald Trump's January 6th speech. But what Donald Trump did not do in that speech is declare that half the country was the enemy. He did not declare that half the...
All right, let's go ahead and find out what Trump has said about Democrats. Trump campaign suggests Democrats are not Americans. A new Trump campaign survey sent out on Monday gives respondents the options of identifying as an American or a Democrat. The latest action in a campaign marked by divisive messaging. So Donald Trump is saying his political opponents are not even Americans. That's yikesy. That's a little, what's the word? Divisive? Trump calls Democrats un-American and treasonous. He says, you're up here, you've got half the room going totally crazy, wild, they loved everything. They want to do something great for our country, Trump said. And you have the other side, even on positive news, really positive news like that. They were like death and un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess, why not? Can we call that treason? Why not? I mean, they certainly didn't seem to love our country very much.
2022 will be the year that millions of everyday citizens stand up to the left-wing fascists. And they'll continue.
The left-wing fascists. Damn. So this is Trump's very non-divisive rhetoric. The guy that Ben Shapiro fervently supported, mind you. And now he's going to get up here and pearl clutch about how Biden was apparently really divisive by calling out certain threats to the country. Okay, let's hear it, Ben Shapiro.
Country was fundamentally opposed to the basis of the country. He attacked, I thought wrongly, the quote-unquote political elite who had skewed the election or whatever. But what he didn't do was label half the country, people who were just political opponents, his actual enemies. He didn't actually do...
We just watched clips of him doing that multiple times. What? He literally just said that they were democratic fascists.
What he didn't do was label half the country, people who were just political opponents, his actual enemies. He didn't actually do that on January 6th. And when he talked about the press,
see how he's doing that? He's isolating the January 6th speech to say that Trump didn't do this on January 6th. Okay, so you're just ignoring all the other times that Trump did do that? You're just saying, well, specifically on January 6th at 11:03 a.m. EST, he didn't say it then. Okay, Shapiro, okay.
The enemies of the people in all of this. The press went nuts. And I said he shouldn't have done that. But that was a talk about the press. That wasn't everybody who opposes my agenda deserves the back of the American hand. The president and all this in the name of...
Biden didn't even say that either. He said that they were a minority. He said that doesn't make up the majority of Republicans. He was literally calling on other Republicans to unify with him and the Democrats. He was not labeling his political opponents as threats or as being all bad.
Democracy and equality, it was insane. I want to begin with the image of the speech. This is going to be the takeaway image. Most people are not going to see the speech. Most people are not going to listen to the speech. There's going to be one takeaway image from the speech. Presidential politics is all about image. It's all about imagistics. Whether you're talking about President Trump getting out of a helicopter and taking off his mask in the middle of COVID, or whether you're talking about Barack Obama standing on a giant stage flanked by the Greek Parthenon recreated in 2008. When you look at this image, the image that you're seeing right now of Joe Biden, this is the single worst piece of presidential image making I have ever seen in my entire life.
He could give legitimate criticisms without sounding so fucking deranged. Guys, doesn't this look a little bit like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars? Curious. This is the worst piece of presidential imagery you've ever seen in your life? Shapiro, what are you, 3 years old? You've been covering politics now for decades. This is the worst you've seen? Okay, well that's cute. But again, a lot of Republicans have grabbed this image, and let's just say, I sure hope that none of them try to compare this to a picture of Adolf Hitler. That would be very, very cliche and predictable. Surely none of them are going to do that, right? Surely the side that made fun of the left for calling Trump literally Hitler aren't going to start saying that Biden is literally Hitler, right? Right.
It is not close. This is an astonishingly bad image for the President of the United States, especially when he's declaring, I'm here in defense of democracy, and now I'm going to yell at you about how everyone who opposes me is an enemy of democracy.
He didn't say everyone who opposes him is an enemy of democracy. That's not what he said. That's not even like a misinterpretation. That's just a falsehood.
Let's count the ways in which this is a horrible piece of... I mean, first of all, let's compare it to some other images, just so you see how bad a piece of imagery this is. It's insane. Okay, how about General Lux from Star Trek, from Star Wars: The Force Awakens? Okay, we are talking here about Man in the High Castle, when John Smith is first introduced in the Vauxhall in New York.
Ooh.
I mean, like, it's this sort of imagery.
Look, it looks like when a bad guy was on TV. Like, what? Is this going to be your criticism? Can we get to the point? It's just, literally, so far, this is 3 minutes of Ben Shapiro saying, who cares about the facts? My feelings are, this image is scary.
The people who constructed this image, that was not Photoshopped, that picture of Joe Biden. That was a not Photoshopped image. I mean, Scar from Lion King. It's insane. What are they doing? What are they doing? The answer, by the way, and it's V for Vendetta. It is all the dictators that you have ever seen in film or on screen, basically rolled into one and then wrapped into an image. What is his team doing? What is his...
But Biden isn't a dictator. And again, is your whole point really just it looks scary because like that movie I saw one time? Like, this is like a child's understanding of politics.
Team doing? Well, I think the answer is they're a very online team. The people who work for him, they spend all day on Twitter. And so over the past few weeks, there's been this idea that Dark Brandon is rising. Dark Brandon, of course, is that meme that originally started in China of Joe Biden sitting on a throne made of guns with his lit up eyes, backlit by flames. You know, he's evil. I think that his...
Damn, it sounds like Ben Shapiro's really scared of Dark Brandon. Dark Brandon's rising. Ooh, Ben Shapiro gets offended by a picture for 3 minutes.
Team was like, you know what? That was such a cool image, man. It went viral online. Let's just recreate that in real life. And so you end up with this. You end up with the actual picture of Joe Biden. Let's go back to the original. You end up with the actual picture of Joe Biden in this picture. Now let me describe for people who are just listening. What is in this picture. Joe Biden is standing at the podium. Is an upshot. I believe this is from Getty Images. He is screaming at the top of his lungs. He's gripping his fists up in the air. Behind him is...
I like how their go-to for a long time was like, Biden's mumbling and he's always tripping over his words. He's got dementia. And now all of a sudden when it's convenient for their agenda, it's like, he was literally screaming. It was hurting my ears. My eardrum literally popped.
Independence Hall, the site of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. Blood red. Blood red.
Dude, you're a Republican. Your color is blood red. That's the Republican color. Red is a terrifying color unless it is on my side.
Are two American Marines who are in shadow except for their white gloved hands. And behind him, there's a pale light that looks like, because of the way this is lit, it looks like the throne room of the Emperor from Return of the Jedi.
Okay, I'm actually going to just like skip this. I don't need to hear Ben Shapiro complain about one still frame of the speech saying how scary it looks. We get it, Shapiro, okay? You saw an image, it scared you almost as bad as that time you accidentally saw your sister's feet pics. Just get to the next subject, please. Make a point.
And they're sitting around a room, they're like, what can we do to make the president really look cool? Well, what if we take a historic American site? You know, the site that it really is known for liberty and for democracy and legality. And what if we light it blood red? Blood red. And we put the president in front of the blood red site. So it'll be red and black, like the fascist color pattern. Let's do that. And then
I love how he's like saying like the fascist color when we just watched several different clips of Donald Trump declaring that most, if not all, Democrats are actually fascists. That's really, really funny.
what if we actually front-light him so he looks angry and demonic against that backdrop? And then what if we put a couple of Marines behind him to look like military force is what is backing him? This is a taxpayer-sponsored event, by the way. You paid for this. So Joe Biden gave a speech and...
Okay, yeah, support our military, right? The military is usually, to a large degree, subservient to the president. So having some Navy SEALs or whatever back there is pretty standard shit, right?
And the speech was designed to attack all of his political opponents and treat them as enemies of the state. That's what this speech was designed to do.
No, he never said all of his political opponents. He literally called for his political opponents to unify with him and other Democrats to stand against the MAGA Republicans. This is the thing, is that Ben Shapiro is a partisan degenerate hack. He is not interested in giving the truth. I feel like Shapiro used to be better than this. I remember when Ben Shapiro would kind of give balanced takes, and he wasn't afraid to criticize Republicans and Democrats, and it seemed as though he wasn't this partisan hack. He has moved on from that. Apparently all the money is in the hackery, and this is exactly where he is going. If anybody has watched the speech and now is watching Shapiro's breakdown of it, they would know he is lying. But again, Shapiro is a partisan hack, and he's also relying on the fact that his audience is largely uneducated. They didn't watch the whole speech. They don't know. They saw the spooky picture, they hear Shapiro's mad about it, and they get their hate boner going too. It's that simple for these chuds.
I think in a very cynical way, because Joe Biden basically gave you two messages. One, everyone who opposes me is an enemy of the state, and two, violence is wrong. The basic idea here is to raise the temperature. I think this is more likely to result in acts of violence that Joe Biden is then going to use as a case to run in 2022 and 2024.
He's just making stuff up. Now all of these political pundits, these conservative pundits are like, he said all of the conservatives are radicals. I'm offended. No, actually, he said there's a minority called MAGA Republicans that are the extremists. And now you're just going mask off and admitting that you are actually one of those extremists. Congratulations, Shapiro. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've outed yourself, my friend.
We haven't gotten to the content of the speech. Just the imagery alone is extraordinary. Really dark, really creepy, really fascistic. And man, did he, I mean, there's a reason that satanic, demonic, and pure evil were all trending on Twitter last night because, man, oh man.
This is like the most emotional video I've seen. Honestly, this is one of the most emotional videos I've seen. Pure evil? Because there was a red background, the color of your party? Some people on Twitter said this? Didn't you just insult Biden's team for apparently spending all day on Twitter? Now you're getting your arguments literally based on Twitter trends. This is actually embarrassing. Ben Shapiro's feelings do not care about the facts, apparently.
The imagery associated with the speech. And you know what? It fits well within the rhetoric of the speech, too. Because what Joe Biden said last night is, as I say, the most dangerous thing I have seen an American president say about half the country ever.
Really? Really? That's the most dangerous thing you've ever heard an American president say? Which, by the way, wasn't even about half the country. You're lying when you say that it is. Well, now we know how sensitive you are.
In my life. And I'm sure there are times, maybe, before that in American history, but I was born in 1984, so I can only tell you what I have seen since 1984. The President of the United States going out there and saying that the half of the country that disagrees with, he has a 38% approval rating, half the country, more than half, that disagrees with him, that these are people who are associated with pure evil.
How many times should I just pause this to point out again that he's lying? He never said this about half the country. He specifically said that this does not speak for all Republicans and that these MAGA extremist types are in the minority. He said that specifically, Ben. If anybody's pure evil here, it is you, Shapipo. You know what you're doing. You know you're being dishonest, but you just roll with it anyway because you know that your audience is stupid enough to not actually fact check a single thing that your feelings have said thus far.
At his fellow Americans, the way that George W. Bush spoke about Al-Qaeda. So let's actually go through the speech now. We're going to go through it in real detail. I want him to speak in his own words. It's amazing. So this thing opens. Remember, it's a taxpayer-sponsored event, which means he's using all of the power of the office. This geriatric dotard. He's using all the power of the office, including taxpayer dollars, and all the imagery of traditional American republicanism, small r republicanism, in order to prop up a demagogic piece of fascistic speech-making. So here he was at the very beginning.
Sorry, give me a minute, please. Sorry. Okay, I'm done. I had to really let out a big loud chuckle for Ben Shapiro claiming that the speech was fascistic. Shapiro, you wouldn't know what fascism was if it slapped you in the face.
And Jill is walking him out to the podium because he now needs to be walked from place to place as our president. And here's what it sounded.
Oh, okay, so he did the entire speech without any help and was also extremely coherent, but yet because he walked out there with his wife, that means that he needs to be walked places. God, the partisan. Cool.
So there he is. I mean, he can barely walk. She's leading him out there.
He looks
If this doesn't feel like the death of the Republic to you, I don't know what would.
He literally looks like a man walking, holding hands with his wife, Shapiro. I know maybe for you, like, holding hands with your wife is like this insanely rare occasion.
He's in front of Independence Hall. He can barely raise his hand to wave.
He can barely wave
Okay,
his
and then she ushers
hand?
him to the podium, and he moves her off, and then he begins to speak. So he starts off by welcoming his fellow Americans. And by his fellow Americans, he means everyone who agrees with him. This was a pure campaign speech, but it is laced through with the kind of seething hatred for his fellow Americans that I have not seen. Truly, it's...
I don't think Shapiro watched the speech. I genuinely would rather believe that this person is just willfully stupid instead of being this maliciously bad faith.
Here's the President of the United States, Captain Unity over here.
My fellow Americans, I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America, Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal.
Okay, so, first of all, you can hear that he's clearing his throat. He's not particularly healthy, but as we would see, this was angry Biden. There are two...
He cleared his throat, guys. Clearly this means Biden has dementia and lung cancer and AIDS because his throat was cleared. Ben Shapiro, have you just, like, become WebMD all of a sudden? I have cancer! I'm dying! My funeral's tomorrow! Ah! Is this what you mean whenever you bring up the fact that your wife is a doctor?
One version of Biden. Then you have fake empathy Biden, where he goes into his low voice. He really cares. That's the stuff where, in completely inappropriate context, he cites the tragic death of his son in order to try and garner empathy for himself while supposedly trying to sympathize with others, right? That's version number 2 Biden.
Wow, so accusing him of using his dead son for political points. Damn, if that's not the most divisive thing I have ever heard in conservative pundit American history.
And there's angry yelly Biden. What we got last night was angry yelly Biden. So he continues with what he says are the real message of America. What is the soul? He said he was going to speak about the soul of the nation in front of a blood red background in satanic lighting. Here he was talking about the soul of the nation.
Also, people were pointing out, too, that it was blood red in the angle, but it was ultimately supposed to be red and blue.
America really all about?
We the people. We the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built.
Okay, so the very basis of his speech, that equality and democracy are the key values of the United States, they are some of the key values of the United States, but he's actually using the wrong language. Because when he says equality, what he means is equity. Right? He's made this very, very clear throughout his presidency. Equity means equality of outcome. It does not mean...
Conservatives are so scared of equity, by the way, also. Like, you realize there are certain circumstances where equal outcomes are actually incredibly necessary and important. The fact that there is not equal outcomes for black people as opposed to white people when they're receiving a death sentence is a problem. Like, there are certain contexts in which equity is fully justifiable and is in fact a good thing. Ben is just making stuff up. What's next? You're going to tell me you have a wife that loves you?
You have equal rights under the Constitution. That is not what he cares about. He cares about equality of outcome. And if you oppose that, you're against equality. And when he says democracy, as it turns out, he does not mean...
He's just making it up. He's like, no, actually what he means is the word he didn't say. You see, he said the word that he meant, but actually he meant this other word that he never said. And he's also saying that if you disagree with that, then that means you hate America. At least we understand that Ben Shapiro still has a childish, almost endearing sense of imagination.
The kind of republicanism, small r republicanism, that is discussed in the Constitution of the United States. The truth is, if you look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, the key messages, truly, are liberty and republicanism, not equality and democracy. Equality and democracy are hallmarks of the French Revolution. Because in the French Revolution, the whole idea was that it was égalité, liberté, fraternité. It was pure democracy. It was mob rule. The founders very much feared the idea of mob rule.
So, first of all, it's not mob rule here. I know he's going to say that, but again, this is why we have a democratic republic, because it is not just up to the masses, but it's actually you vote for your elected official who then advocates on your behalf. And again, it's by supporting their constituents that they get re-elected, which is the incentive for those people to continue advocating for your interests. So there's that. Second of all, America was absolutely founded on these ideas of liberty and equality. I mean, this is what the Enlightenment was all about. Individuality. We the people.
Culminating in a powerful centralized figure who was able to do whatever he wanted without any of the checks and boundaries of the Constitution of the United States. That's what they feared. And that's what Joe Biden represents. So understand, when he says equality and democracy, you're hearing equality of rights and democratic Republican rule under the checks and balances of the Constitution. That's not what he means.
Really? Then why did he unironically continuously advocate, in order for democracy to thrive, we need to stay within the guardrails of the law? Biden said that almost verbatim, multiple times. You are an embarrassment to human nature, Ben.
By equality and democracy is something very different. He means equity and mob rule. Those are the things that he's actually standing for. But again, what he's doing is he's hijacking. This whole speech was about hijacking traditional American images and turning them on their head. Right? Independence Hall is now blood red. Equality and democracy, if you're in favor of a limited government and equality of rights, and you're interested in a checks and balances system that hems in the power of a centralized bureaucratic state, this means, according to Joe Biden, you are against the founding ideals of the country.
Biden literally was supporting that. He was supporting the checks and balances. You dishonest fuckface. Oh my God. And here I thought Matt Walsh was bad and Michael Knowles was bad. Shapiro has this way about him where he talks as if he's delivering these hardcore, cold facts and doesn't care about your feelings. But in reality, he's doing nothing but spouting out a bunch of his fucking feelings. He's a little baby bitch right here. Log off the internet and go get some DAP, okay? Dry ass pussy. Well, there you guys have it. Joe Biden giving a super based, coherent, and specific speech about a very small, vocal minority of extremists, and all the other Republicans pretending that they actually are offended because, well, they apparently have lumped themselves in with the MAGA extremists who hate democracy and equality. Would you look at that? They've taken the mask off themselves. It's like COVID all over again. Conservatives just ripping the mask off. Based speech from Dark Brandon, coping Ben Shapiro, and a bunch of Republicans seething and dilating until they get the next NPC chip implemented to tell them the next thing to be angry about. Okay, Shapiro, I sincerely hate you. And I hope that you have a terrible day, and I hope that you step on a Lego for the rest of your fucking life. Fuck you, cuck.